London. Step off the train at Southall Station and something immediately feels different. The station signs are written in both English and Punjabi. The first voices you hear are Punjabi. The aroma of fresh samosas, jalebis, and masala chai drifts through the streets. Gold jewelry stores stand beside sari boutiques, Indian banks, sweet shops, immigration advisors, gurdwaras. For a moment, it doesn't feel like West London. It feels like India. One traveler stopped outside the station, looked around in disbelief, and said, "Look at the specialty of this station. It's written in Punjabi. I didn't expect this. All the boards have Punjabi on them." Another visitor walked only a few minutes before arriving at the same conclusion. You step out of central London and step over here, and it's like you almost jumped on a plane and swapped to a different country. But Southall is only part of the story. Across northwest London, Wembley tells another. Together, these neighborhoods have become home to one of the largest Indian communities anywhere outside India. Today, around 700,000 people of Indian origin live across Greater London. Some arrived after the Second World War to rebuild Britain. Others were forced to leave East Africa after the expulsion of Asians from Uganda. Many came as students, doctors, engineers, entrepreneurs, and skilled professionals. Each generation left something behind, and together they transformed parts of London into places where Indian culture didn't simply survive, it flourished. Walk through Southall today and you'll find Gurdwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha, one of the largest Sikh temples outside India, where thousands of free meals are served every week to anyone who walks through its doors, regardless of religion, nationality, or background. Just a few streets away, family businesses that began with first-generation immigrants now serve customers from across Britain. One of those stories belongs to chef Idi Amin. Her grandfather first opened the brilliant restaurant in Nairobi in the 1950s, before the family migrated to Britain. They began cooking from a garage in Southall, and in 1975 opened the Brilliant Restaurant, which has since grown into one of London's most celebrated Indian restaurants, welcoming everyone from local families to King Charles. For Deepna, the mission has always been simple: to teach the world authentic Punjabi cuisine. Another filmmaker captured what makes these streets so remarkable.
Immigration didn't erase culture here. It created something new. A place where India and Britain exist side by side.
But this story is about much more than familiar food and colorful streets. It is the story of factory workers who answered Britain's call after the Second World War. Families who rebuilt their lives after losing everything in East Africa. Doctors who became essential to the National Health Service. Entrepreneurs who built billion-pound companies. A prime minister whose grandparents came from Punjab. And communities that also faced racism, riots, overcrowded housing, exploitation, and the difficult question of what it means to belong in one country while never forgetting another. This is that story. The temples and the tube, the curry houses and the corporations, the factories and the finance, the celebrations and the struggles. Not simply how Indians came to London, but how they helped reshape one of the world's greatest cities. Tonight, we travel from the streets of Southall to the markets of Wembley, from family businesses and gurdwaras to hospitals, boardrooms, and the halls of government, exploring the people, neighborhoods, traditions, and institutions that transformed parts of London into one of the largest Indian communities outside India. This is the human map, because when people move, the map moves with them. Subscribe and explore the communities, cultures, and hidden networks quietly reshaping the world. The Indian community in London did not arrive all at once. It arrived in waves, each shaped by a different crisis or opportunity, and each building upon the foundation the previous generation had already laid. The first wave began not in the 1950s, but centuries earlier. Indian sailors, lascars, had been arriving in British ports since the 17th century. Some served East India Company officers. Others came as students to British universities or as merchants following trade routes the British Empire had carved across the Indian Ocean. By the 19th century, a small but established Indian presence already existed in London, professional, educated, often invisible to mainstream British society, but permanent. The Great Transformation began in 1950. Britain had emerged from the Second World War exhausted and short of workers. Factories needed hands. Heathrow Airport, newly opened just a few miles west of Southall, needed staff. The British government encouraged recruitment from across the Commonwealth. The first significant group of Punjabi migrants arrived in Southall that year, reportedly recruited to work in a factory owned by a former British Indian Army officer. They were men from middle-ranking farming families in Punjab, many of whom had served in the colonial army or police. They understood the British system better than most and saw opportunity where others saw uncertainty. One documentary describing the community summed up both what they built and what they endured.
Punjabis began arriving to work in Southall's factories in the 1950s in response to Britain's post-war recruitment drive. But as the immigrant population grew, so did racist attacks and discriminatory policies, which provoked riots in the streets of Southall in the 70s and 80s.
The tensions reached a breaking point in 1979 when the far-right National Front held a rally in Southall. Anti-fascist protesters filled the streets. A New Zealand teacher named Blair Peach was killed by police during the confrontation. 2 years later, the racist punk band Foreskins was scheduled to perform at the Hambro Tavern on Southall Broadway. The community had had enough. Petrol bombs were thrown. The pub burned. The skinheads never returned. Southall, after decades of absorbing racial hostility in relative silence, decided it would absorb no more. The second wave arrived from an unexpected direction. On August 4, 1972, Ugandan dictator Idi Amin gave Uganda's Asian population, predominantly Gujarati Indians whose families had lived in East Africa for generations, 90 days to leave the country. That year, 29,000 Ugandan Asians arrived in Britain, many carrying little more than their skills, experience, and determination. Many were placed in temporary accommodation. Many were Gujarati Hindus who had already spent generations building businesses across East Africa and now arrived in Britain knowing how to build them again. A significant number settled in Wembley and Ealing, neighboring Southall, where an emerging Indian community offered them a soft landing. Those Ugandan Gujaratis and the remarkable story of Ealing Road are the focus of Part 2. But their arrival transformed London's Indian community from a largely Punjabi Sikh working-class enclave into a multi-regional, multi-religious, and economically diverse community that occupied different neighborhoods, different industries, and different levels of British society. The third wave, the one still unfolding, is the migration of professionals and students in the late 20th and early 21st centuries. Doctors, engineers, finance professionals, software developers, students arriving at UCL, Imperial College London, and Queen Mary University of London, intending to study for a year and often staying to build a career. In the year ending June 2024, India sent 240,000 people to the United Kingdom, more than any other country. The pipeline that brings Indian doctors into the NHS, technology professionals into London's financial districts, and students into British universities has become so established that it now functions almost like infrastructure. 3 waves, 75 years. One community that today represents 7.5% of the population of one of the world's most important cities. They did not simply blend in. They built neighborhoods that feel like another country, and one of those neighborhoods would become the undisputed heart of Indian London. There are 2 little Indias in London. Most people know about one of them. Southall Broadway is the one that appears in every food blog and every tourist guide. Walk it on a Saturday afternoon, and the sensory experience is immediate. Sakshi, an Indian traveler who has visited Little Indias on multiple continents, described the distinct regional identity she felt.
It doesn't feel like we are in London. It actually feels like I've come to a new city, as in a city in India that I've not been to before. Little India in Singapore feels like you're somewhere in South India, and this one feels like you're somewhere in North India.
She named the 3 landmarks that greet visitors as they leave the station.
As soon as you walk out of the station and take a right, there are 3 prominent landmarks that will greet you. 1. The Gurudwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha, one of the largest Sikh temples outside India. 2nd, Sarvana Bhavan, a renowned restaurant chain known for its delicious South Indian vegetarian cuisine. And 3rd, the Punjab National Bank, one of the leading public sector banks in India.
A Sikh temple, an Indian restaurant, an Indian bank, before you have even walked 50 meters from the station. Gurdwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha is more than a place of worship. Every week, thousands of people pass through its doors, where volunteers prepare and serve free meals to anyone who comes, regardless of religion or background. It has become one of the defining institutions of Indian London. The Broadway is the commercial spine of the Punjabi Sikh community that has been building here since 1950. Bridal shops selling lehengas for wedding season, Malabar Gold and Diamonds, Joyalukas, ICICI Bank, Bank of Baroda. Businesses serving a community that still sends money home, invests across borders, and celebrates weddings with the same traditions carried from Punjab decades ago. One family business tells that story particularly well. Chef Dipna Anand's family first opened the Brilliant restaurant in Nairobi before migrating to Britain. Starting from a small garage kitchen in Southall, they opened the Brilliant restaurant in 1975. Today, it is one of London's best-known Indian restaurants, welcoming everyone from neighborhood families to King Charles himself. As Deepna puts it, "My mission is to teach the world authentic Punjabi cuisine." A local guide named Dan, who has eaten his way through Southall his entire life, described the places no guidebook ever recommends.
These are the type of places that I call OG spots.
Okay, got it.
There's no frills about it, but they don't really care about customer service. They're like, what do you want? Do you want it fresh? Do you want it now? Give me your money, eat, off your pot. And those are my favorite spots, man.
And on the food itself,
this is heritage. Of course, you can never replace the flavor of the motherland, but when you come here, this might as well be the motherland.
a sweet maker who has worked in Southall for 40 years described what festivals mean for business. During festivals like Diwali, we might sell 200 kilograms of jalebi a day. On normal days, around 25 kilograms. The owner of Veena Musical Shop, selling harmoniums, tablas, and dholaks to musicians across Europe, explained why customers travel thousands of miles to Southall.
We get people coming even from Europe, from different parts of the world to buy instruments because these are not the type of shops you see everywhere. So it's quite specialized, so people have to travel to buy these instruments. So we get people coming from places like Germany, from Brazil, from USA.
A documentary on Southall captured the neighborhood's identity perfectly.
Southall isn't just a neighborhood. It's a cultural time capsule, a place where traditions traveled thousands of miles and somehow survived, and maybe even grew stronger. Immigration didn't erase culture here. It created something new, a place where India and Britain exist side by side.
The second Little India lies 3 miles north, Ealing Road in Wembley. Less famous, more Gujarati, and built by a completely different migration story. Travel creator Carl Rock, who has spent years documenting Indian communities around the world, explained its origins.
I read that Ealing Road, people came here after being from persecution in Uganda. It was Gujaratis leaving Uganda.
It's mostly Gujaratis on Ealing Road. That's what it's known for, mostly.
And on the food that makes it different from Southall.
The flavor is just like India, and that's what I'm looking for, man. How do you do that? Because so many restaurants here in England, they're changing the flavor for Western tastes.
He believes that's because the community refused to compromise.
Indian food is perfect the way it is. It does not need to be changed. And if you do have to change the food just to suit Western tastes, then it's not Indian food anymore.
Ealing Road is home to the Sri Sanatan Hindu Mandir, a handcrafted limestone temple near Wembley Stadium. Its side streets are lined with Gujarati fashion stores, garba dresses, traditional tailors, and food stalls like Guju Daba Express, where pani puri still costs less than £1. The food is Gujarati, the community is Gujarati, and the origin story, families expelled from Uganda in 1972 who rebuilt their lives in Wembley, remains one of the most remarkable economic comeback stories in modern Britain. Within 2 decades of arriving with almost nothing, many had rebuilt businesses, bought property, and established themselves among the most prosperous South Asian communities in the United Kingdom. 2 Little Indias, 2 different migration stories, 1 city. But behind the restaurants, temples, and successful businesses lies another story, one that begins with the difficult question of belonging. Southall is not only jalebi and gold jewelry. A Vice News documentary filmed during the COVID-19 pandemic captured another side of the neighborhood, the one that rarely appears in travel guides.
A lot of people are very much on the breadline. You've got multiple families living within very small dwellings just because that's all they can afford. People that have come here don't speak English very well, so they need to be around a community that they can communicate with.
And beneath that reality lies another.
So a lot of people are here illegally and they're still humans and they still need food and shelter. And because they're not legal residents in this country, they're definitely falling within the cracks.
The documentary also described the infrastructure of exploitation that has grown alongside one of Britain's most successful immigrant communities.
It's very deprived. There's cultural issues, there's religious issues, there's international politics, there's language issues, and there's a big migrant community. It's well documented, unfortunately, with sheds in beds, so that's immigrants being exploited by, let's call them, rogue landlords.
Sheds with beds. Garden sheds converted into makeshift bedrooms. Overcrowded terraced houses illegally divided into tiny living spaces. Migrants paying thousands of pounds to recruitment agencies in India for visa sponsorships that turn out to be fraudulent or barely legitimate, only to arrive and discover the promised job hardly exists, the accommodation is a converted outbuilding, and the English language support they expected is nowhere to be found. A Sky News investigation revealed how easily the system can be abused. One student, Danabel, paid a London agency £7,000 to secure a university place in Northern England. After attending for just 1 month, he dropped out and began working cash-in-hand jobs as an undocumented overstayer. Another, Suresh, arrived from India on a student visa for a college in Wales but never started his course. He has now spent 7 years living undocumented in Britain, surviving through informal work in London. The UK Home Office has not published official data on student visa overstayers since 2020, although immigration solicitors report a sharp rise in cases involving expired visas. The documentary also explored another challenge: trust.
There's a mistrust, perhaps, of authority and the state. I think there's a fear that the healthcare service is in cahoots with the immigration services.
For undocumented migrants, even visiting a doctor can feel like a risk. Then there is Jasper Sandhu, street name Injection. His introduction is delivered with the calm honesty of someone who has already confronted his own past.
My name is Jasper Sandhu, street name Injection. I am a ex-criminal, ex-gangster, rehabilitated. I've spent a good 20 years of my life kidnapping people and hurting people, torturing people.
He explained how the pandemic reshaped the criminal world he once belonged to.
During the pandemic, Injection has seen crime patterns changing radically to adapt to a new normal.
Everything's closed, there's nothing for them to steal. So now we've all started breaking into houses.
This is the full picture of Southall, and, in many ways, of immigrant neighborhoods across the world. Success and hardship, prosperity and poverty, opportunity and exploitation. The gold shops, the jalebi, the Punjabi signs, and families living in overcrowded rooms just streets away. Yet when the crisis came, one institution quietly became the neighborhood's safety net: Gurdwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha. From humble beginnings in a former dairy, it has grown into one of the largest Sikh temples outside India. Creator They Didn't Tell You described his first impression.
From the outside, it looks like a palace. White marble, golden domes. Inside this temple, something incredible happens. Every single day, they feed anyone who walks through the door. No payment, no membership, no questions. This tradition is called langar, and thousands of meals are served here every week.
During the pandemic, the Gurdwara operated one of West London's largest food distribution efforts, feeding the homeless, the unemployed, documented and undocumented migrants alike. Its tradition of langar, sharing a free meal with everyone, regardless of faith, nationality, or status, became the community's answer to a crisis that public services alone could not solve. As the documentary explains,
he says everyone is equal, everybody treated the same, despite who you are, where you come from, and this is the beauty of Sikh values, equality. We are all one.
That spirit of service would shape far more than Southall's response to the pandemic. It would also help explain why Indian professionals would go on to become indispensable in Britain's hospitals, universities, businesses, and public life. In the same week that Jasper Sandhu, Injection, was speaking about his criminal rehabilitation in Southall, a young doctor from Bangalore was beginning his first week as an NHS junior doctor in East London. His journey had taken years. He passed the PLAB examination, the Professional and Linguistic Assessments Board test required for international doctors to practice medicine in the United Kingdom. He cleared IELTS, completed a clinical attachment, registered with the General Medical Council, passed both parts of PLAB, including the practical OSCE examination in Manchester, applied through NHS Jobs and Track Jobs, received an offer, then secured a health and care worker visa. The total cost of the process was roughly £7,000 to £8,000, or 7 to 8 lakh Indian rupees, not including the years of medical school that came before it. Why choose London instead of the United States, long considered the traditional destination for ambitious Indian doctors? A physician from Bangalore, documenting his own journey on YouTube, explained what made the NHS different.
Being able to try out all these different specialties for a few months or up to a year before you commit many years of your life into training in that specialty was kind of like dating before marrying, and I kind of liked it.
He also explained how Brexit unexpectedly changed the pathway for international medical graduates.
Till 2019, there was a set of rules called RLMT, but thankfully, since Brexit, this scheme has been scrapped. So right now, IMGs are at the same level as UK grads and European grads. So pretty much every specialty has opened up.
Brexit is often described as reducing Britain's openness to the world. For Indian doctors, it had the opposite effect. The removal of the resident labor market test meant NHS employers no longer had to prove that no British or European applicant was available before hiring an international graduate. A healthcare system that had quietly depended on Indian doctors for decades could now recruit them more directly than ever before. The student pipeline feeds the same system from another direction. Himanshu Riveria documented his first year as a master's student at Queen Mary University of London. A haircut now cost £15 instead of 80 rupees. Life required independence he had never experienced before. And London, a city of nearly 9 million people, could still feel surprisingly lonely. Another couple, Rohan and Vishaka, who settled in London after Rohan completed his master's degree, described both the opportunities and the challenges that attract Indian professionals. The multicultural society, world-class public transport, a healthier work-life balance outside the finance sector, rich cultural life, easy access to Europe. Balanced against soaring living costs, NHS waiting times for non-emergency care, phone snatching, bicycle theft, and the isolation that comes with starting over in one of the world's largest cities. Their most important observation was also the simplest. Building a community in London does not happen automatically. You have to find your people. Most Indian professionals still find them in much the same way the first Punjabi factory workers did in 1950. The Indian restaurant where the chef cooks dal exactly the way your mother does. The grocery store in Ealing stocked with Parle G, Wagh Bakri tea, and every spice and lentil you grew up with. The local temple. The Indian doctor. The WhatsApp group sharing which NHS trust is hiring this month. The infrastructure the first generation built simply to survive has become the infrastructure the next generation uses to succeed. And over the decades, that quiet network of opportunity would produce entrepreneurs, business leaders, and even a British Prime Minister whose story began in the same community. Anil Agarwal grew up in Patna, Bihar. He arrived in London as a young man and spent his first nights in a £7 a night bed and breakfast near Paddington Station. Over the next 49 years, he built Vedanta Resources into one of the world's largest metals and mining companies. In 2002, he completed what was then a record $2 billion listing on the London Stock Exchange. He later bought a 150-year-old townhouse in Mayfair, once owned by the Rothschild family, where, at the press of a button, the basement transforms into a 7-foot-deep swimming pool. Yet every morning at 6:30, he walks to a nearby temple for the 7 a.m. Mangal Aarti. He has followed that routine for more than 15 years. He helped establish Krishna Avanti Primary School in Harrow, the United Kingdom's first state-funded Hindu school. He supported the revival of Riverside Studios, creating a platform for Indian artists and performers. And he opened Om Nom, a fine dining vegetarian restaurant introducing London's diners to Sattvic cuisine, the pure, plant-based food rooted in Hindu tradition. Asked what continues to drive him, he answered simply, "People from Bihar who achieve something, they feel so happy. they feel so fulfilled. Another entrepreneur tells a different story. Soham, co-founder of Fat Pundit in Covent Garden, wasn't trying to introduce traditional Indian food. He wanted to introduce something many Indians themselves grew up loving: Indo-Chinese cuisine. Food born in Calcutta's Tangra neighborhood, where Chinese immigrants blended Hakka cooking with Indian flavors. He explained why he built the restaurant.
Indo-Chinese for us growing up is the cuisine,
best.
right? Yes, it was always cooked at home.
Yeah.
So whenever we would go out, this is what we love. And then when I came to London, and there were lots of Indian food available, but Indo-Chinese was just not there.
Yeah.
And it was there in some nooks and corners, somewhere probably in Wembley or in Harrow, somewhere, but a couple of dishes.
So he brought it into the heart of London. Today, Fat Pundit serves dishes like crackling spinach, sticky sesame vegetables, and its famous Bombay sizzling brownie, recreating the nostalgia of a 1990s Bombay restaurant for a new generation. The Indian community in London now has restaurants at every level, from Southall's 99 Pani Puri to Mayfair's tasting menus. It has fashion designers represented in the Victoria and Albert Museum, a state-funded Hindu school in Harrow, one of the largest Sikh temples outside India, serving free meals every day, and businesses that have become part of London's identity rather than simply its immigrant economy. Then, in October 2022, the community reached a milestone that would have seemed unimaginable to the first Punjabi factory workers who arrived in Southall. Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Born in Southampton to Hindu Punjabi parents whose families had migrated through East Africa, he grew up in Britain, studied at Winchester College and Oxford, worked at Goldman Sachs, entered Parliament in 2015, became Chancellor of the Exchequer, and on October 25, 2022, became Britain's first British Asian Prime Minister, its first Hindu Prime Minister, and its first leader of Indian descent. He took his oath on the Bhagavad Gita. Years earlier, he had described his identity with remarkable clarity. British Indian is what I tick on the census. I am thoroughly British. This is my home and my country. But my religious and cultural heritage is Indian. From the Punjabi factory workers who stepped off the train in Southall in 1950, to the Prime Minister who walked through the doors of 10 Downing Street in 2022. That is 72 years of one community building its place inside the institutions of a country that once ruled the country they left behind. And perhaps that is the clearest measure of the Indian story in London, not simply that they arrived, but that they helped reshape the city while never letting go of where they came from. Southall Station. The platform is busy once again. Above the crowd, the station sign reads Southall in English, and directly beneath it, Punjabi. 2 languages, 1 city. Perhaps no monument better captures the story of Indians in London, a community that arrived to fill factory jobs, endured racism, riots, and hardship, rebuilt after exile, opened businesses, temples, restaurants, and schools, helped sustain the NHS, and within 2 generations, saw one of its own walk through the doors of 10 Downing Street. Not by replacing London, but by becoming part of it. What surprised you most about London's Indian community? If you visited Southall or Wembley, or if you call them home, what places, foods, businesses, or stories do you think deserve to be part of this map? We'd love to read your experiences and recommendations in the comments. This is the human map, because when people move, the map moves with them. Subscribe and explore the communities, cultures, and hidden networks quietly reshaping the world.